Hello, my name is Leonardo AKA DJ ShowaPOP, and here I am going to discuss a Japanese independent record label called Surface Records. Surface Records is a Japanese underground independent mod label that operated from 1998 through 2005. They specialized in mod, beat, reggae, Latin, and punk. They only had 5 vinyl releases, a single 4-song CD-only EP, and a 3 mod CD compilations that had various bands on it. Surface is a nice snapshot of what was going on in the underground mod scene in Japan in the 90s. Their records really captured the sound of the time and were wonderfully produced, capturing the raw 60s sound in the 1990s. I can't seem to identify who the label owner or owners were, but the records seem to be produced by Blues Dress. And on the Hiropon CD, which I'll show shortly, say that Toshi Takanaka is associated with Blues Dress. So I don't know if that was his production name. I don't know if it was an alias. I don't know if that was a band. But Toshi Taka tends to be the gentleman that is associated with all these releases here. Another name pops up called DJ Cobra, and his name also pops up on a handful of releases as well. Their records were pressed in the United States, and some were mastered by the legendary mastering engineer John Golden and Greg Lee, who are responsible for plating and who just happened to make my record that I made back in the 90s. These were the same 2 gentlemen that helped me produce my own record back in the 1990s. So I have a little connection with that, personal connection. What is the mod scene? Well, the mod scene started in the, I would say, late 50s, 60s. It originally started with British kids liking American modern music and the continental look of Europe, riding motor scooters, Lambrettas and Vespas, 3-button suits, wearing a U.S. military parka, and women, of course, having the short hair and a really cool tailored dress. And it had a revival in the 1970s and the 80s, the mod revival, and it kind of became a worldwide thing. It was big here in California and in LA and San Diego. It was also big in Japan. Japan had their group of mods. And this book right here, I'm going to go ahead and insert the book here, Mods. This came out in 1996, and it really kind of showed some of the what was going on in the scene. It has a lot of photography in it, where to buy your clothing at, what your motorcycle scooter should look like. It's definitely worth pickup if you're into knowing about the mod culture in general. It's produced by Studio Tac Creative. I did find it. I've had my copy for a good 10, 15 years now. I bought it right away when I remember seeing it in the 90s, and it was like my dream book. And when I was able to start buying stuff from Japan, it was literally the first box of stuff I got was getting this mod book. So if you want to learn about the Japanese mod scene, definitely pick up one of these books. Okay, so going back to Surface Records, Surface was just one of a handful of labels from the 80s and 90s that was dealing with the Japanese mod culture, underground, and some of the offshoots of mod is also, reggae, ska. You might even get some Latin jazz in there. It kind of covered a little bit of everything, this label. So let's go ahead and discuss this label, Surface Records. A little disclaimer before I go is that unfortunately none of these records really tell you who's on the actual record, and it's a shame. And I noticed that with a lot of punk records and a lot of the independent, where they'll say the guitarist is, Mio. And you go to Discogs and there's 200 people named Mio. So you can never really identify a lot of these artists, especially if they don't put their last name, especially if they don't even put anything. So this is the first record right here. Their catalog number was an RG+. So first release right here is RG+ by a group called Phlege. The song is Little Red Rooster, and it's all over. And this came out in 1998. Now, the name Phlege is taken from a Rolling Stones alias earlier on in their career. They would credit their records as Nanker Phlege. And they used this from 63 through 65. Not only is that the name of the band, but both the songs are Rolling Stone covers, Little Red Rooster and It's All Over Now. These were produced by Blues Dress and DJ Cobra. Now, I do like the sleeve. It's a very cool sleeve. Really captures the tone of like the 60s, the garage revival. And it's taken by a photographer named Yuko Yoshida. And it captures the early 60s vibe of mod London. It's the record itself, it's good. I'm a Stones fan. I'm your average Stones fan. I'm not saying I'm a big, deep collector. So it's kind of cool to hear a couple of covers of Stones songs. The singing, the accent is kind of prominent when singing in English. But overall, it's a nice little garage record. I don't mind playing it if I'm at an event or something. I'll throw it on just to have an extra song to play. This is the first record that was released by the group Phlege. So let's go ahead and go to the second one right here. This is by a group called, this is RG+2. And this is by a group called Bluebeat Players. And the name of the record is A Little Christmas and A Little Christmas Dub. And this also came out in 1998. And again, it has the look of like, again, of like maybe a reggae, skinhead reggae or a ska record with the Lonsdale style logo. The Bluebeat Players is a reggae group featuring Masayuki Hayashi, who was a member of the legendary ska supergroup Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, and they're still around. That's a major historical group. It's basically a supergroup. When all the kind of bands broke up in the late 80s, a lot of the members kind of got together that still wanted to play music and started this group called Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra. They still perform. You can still buy their records. So he's kind of from a famous like super group of Japanese reggae and ska musicians. And this was also produced by Blues Dress with the co-producer of Little Master. Again, don't know who any of these people are. Of the groups on Surface, Bluebeat Players seems to be the only group that had other releases outside of Surface Records. So this is one single of like, I think 10 singles they did, and they did like 3 or 4 albums. And I think they might even still be around. They still at least perform in, here and there, not as like a major group, but just, they'll do a show every once in a while. It seems like they're still kind of active as a performing group. According to Discogs, there's no credits on who played on this record, but according to Discogs, the members are Little Master, Masayuki Hayashi, Motoharu Mori, Shoji Ogawa, Taiki In, and Tomoyuki Hagegawa. Although that's the names that are on Discogs of who's in the band, I'm not even sure if they even played on this record. I'm pretty sure a handful of these names I just mentioned are actually on this record. Yukio Yoshida also photographed this cover as well. So yeah, it's a cool record, and it is a holiday. It's a Christmas record basically, and it has a nice reggae Christmas song on it, and the B-side is like a dub remix of the A-side. It's a little creative. It's a cool record. I like it. It's probably not my favorite reggae record in the world, but it's definitely listenable and definitely worth playing and spinning every once in a while. All right, so the next record, RG+3, The Boss, She's Gonna Quit Me, and Bumblebee, also came out in 1998. The Boss featured bassist Spring Blue, drummer Hideko Yoshikawa, guitarist Akishiro Seke, and rhythm guitarist Masanori Majima, and vocalist Yoichiro Sato. This thing was also produced by Blues Dress. Now, this is a killer record. This is the first one I bought, actually. And let me get a little background of how I discovered this band and how I discovered the label in general. In 2023, my last trip to Japan, I went to Mod's Mayday in Tokyo, and I saw a few bands performing. One of the bands was a band called Motel Sofa right here. Motel Sofa, they were an amazing group. It was a great concert. Like, every band was fantastic. The guitarist of the Boss is this gentleman this is his current band. This is Akishiro Seke's current band, and it's called Hotel Sofa, and it's with the ex-Les Cappuccino bassist Shigusia Miyata, aka Chigi. Now, the Los Cappuccinos was another kind of revival mod group that was popular in the 90s and 2000s. I remember them being out at the time. I was in the mod scene at the time as well. I kind of knew of some of these bands that were floating in from Japan. And so when I went there in 2023, I got to see them perform. Amazing concert. Their records were fantastic. And then I found out, hey, two of the members are, all three of the members are kind of from other famous bands from Japan, mod bands, and Les Cappuccino. And what I found out is The Boss. So this is Seki's one of his bands. And as I said with Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra, a lot of these guys just jump around from so many bands. And so it's kind of, Seki tends to be in 6 or 7 bands over the years, and starting from the 80s. So he goes back to the original era from the mod revival in the 80s. this was just one of the singles. So when I was researching, say, oh wait, these guys are from all these other bands, I just randomly bought this record, and I found out it's just a kick-ass record. It's just amazing. It's just mind fuzz, and it's just relentless, and it just everything you want in a mod record, and a nice like 60s garage fuzz sound is this record right here. And this is what made me collect the label, because it's like, I wonder what all the other records sound like. That's generally how I do all this stuff. Going back to the Boss here, yeah, this is a definitely pickup. If there's any record I'm talking about from this group of records, this is the #1 one right here. And it was cool that I got to see him perform live, him and Chiggy with Motel Sofa, and it's kind of cool to like, there's a connection now with some of his older stuff. And so he's a cool guitar player, great style, and his bands are great. And I like to get more music by him, but you know, again, this stuff is really hard to find because it is independent produced. They probably only press 200 to 500 records, and they're probably all in people's collections right now. So it's real difficult to find some of these real older stuff. But I think this one pops up fairly recent. So if you do see it, buy it. You'll be really happy with this record. RG+4 is Phlege, another their second record. And it's Nobody Can Catch My Heart and All Night Long Blues. This came out the following year in 1999. While the last record was Rolling Stones cover, Phlege wrote 2 original songs for this release. And this was also produced by DJ Cobra and Blues Dress. And this cover is photographed by Mitsuhiro Yoshida. I don't know if there's a relation to the other Yoshida who took the photographs for the other couple singles. I like this one record. Again, I think the other ones, Rolling Stone covers, it's neither here or there. It's just cool to play, nothing more, nothing less. I like this one a little bit more because it is original music and the songs are good. I like them. Again, I don't know who's in this band. I can't name one member from this band, unfortunately. There's no names on the cover, on the sleeve. The 2 records are good. I think they're both worth picking up. I prefer this one over the first one. It is again another just good mod record to spin, just to get the vibe going, just to kind of get the room to sound like it's the 1960s. I would love to know how they were recorded, if these were recorded analog or if there's an analog studio. These people, because they sound really, all these records sound really good. They sound good in their garage way, you know. Anyway, this is their second record. As far as I know, this is the only 2 releases they ever did. It's unfortunate, love to hear, but again, all of these bands are kind of fly by night. They'll only do like 2 or 3 records, break up, form with some other new members, and then start new bands with new names. So I'm sure some of these guys are in other bands, but unfortunately, I don't know who they are. All right. So we're going to go to the last one here, and this is a group called, this is the last single. This is RG+5 El Latin Singers. Ikenari Driver, and the B-side is Candy Lights. This one was released a little bit later. This was released a good 5 years later from the ones I just previously showed you. Although this is the last release, it's another interesting thing, it didn't have a cover. It's just the record with a generic sleeve. And it was released, like I said, 6 years later after the last release in 2004. Charlie Miyake was the group leader, and El Latin Singers also had an album released outside of Surface Records called Spanish Cinnamon. So they actually had an album release, and they actually had I think maybe one more single. They did a couple more things, and again, I don't know where any of these guys went. You know, like I said, on Discogs, you just hope that people connect correctly from other groups that they were in and stuff. And unfortunately, this is just one group where everybody's just kind of hanging. I don't know who was in this group as well. But I do want to show you that this was also the only other one that was released on color vinyl here. And this is what this thing looks. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful vinyl pressing, you know, with some nice reggae colors, even though it's a Latin record. It does have a reggae, you know, so it kind of adds the vibe to the label, you know. So yeah, this one's cool. I actually like the B-side. It's a nice little energetic Latin song, and kind of a swinging Latin song, and it's cool. It's a good song, and the A-side is good as well, but I actually prefer the B-side better, and it's just a nice little small release. All right, so now we're going to get to the last release here, and that's a CD release. This was released in 2005, so it was a year later from the last 7-inch. This is RG+306, so the other ones are just single numbers, but this kind of sequentially is after 5, so it's 306. It's a 4-song CD only EP. It was released in 2005, and as of recent, it's the last release on Surface Records. Hiropon is named after the meth that was a controversial drug panic in Japan during the 1950s. So during the 50s, and the same thing happened in England. They had, that's what I believe that's what the Rolling Stone Mother's Little Helpers is about. Is that you can go to the store and just buy some speed basically to get you through the day. And in Japan, they kind of had the same kind of thing going on. They had drugs were being sold and they weren't really being policed correctly, and it was basically speed. And the brand name was Hiropon. There's kind of a thing associated with the mod scene that speed was like a big thing at the time with mods. I don't know if it's true or not, but basically you take speed so you can dance all night and hang out all night with all your friends, basically what it comes down to. And so having this name as a mod group is actually kind of funny, kind of digging deep into the history of Japanese culture in the 50s. It's a very funny name considering, a very smart name considering how speed was introduced into the mod scene at the time in the, throughout the mod culture. Now, this group, for instance, it's very different from all the other releases. This is quite a different release for Surface Records, that it's more of a art punk rock sound that doesn't really sound like any punk rock I know. And it's kind of hard to explain. It's just like, I know punk. I mean, I don't collect punk, but I do know the basics. And it just seems like this CD is outside of those basics. It's a punk record, but it's very art. But it's not like art rock. I can't explain it. It's just its own sound that's kind of has its foot into punk. And I thought it would be more garagey, but it ends up just kind of just being like just a really unique sounding punk record. I'm not sure, again, but at least I got band members. The group members include bassist Daisuke Toyokawa, drummer Yosuke Tomiyama, guitarist Masashi Noguchi, and vocalist Kinoshita Yutsu. At least I got some band members' names. Again, I put their names in Discogs and nothing comes up. Again, I'm not sure who they are, if they did anything else, if this is the only release by the band. But I do like the bunny logo with the gun. That's kind of funny. Now, the last releases they released, and I don't have any of these, they did 3 CD compilations of mod groups at the time. So I have a feeling they were probably associated with like Mods Mayday at the time. And they have, 10 or 15 mod soul reggae groups that were on these compilations. I don't own any of them. I am looking for them, but I'm going to have a separate release on them. I'm going to do a separate video on them once I locate them all. So that's it. That's the record label. 5 vinyl, 1 CD, and 3 compilations. And it's cool. It's nice to collect a nice little independent label from the 90s. And I grew up in the 90s. I had a band in the 90s. I really liked the mod sound. I was a mod. I had a scooter. I made a movie about the mods. So it's kind of cool to find like this stuff was being released in Japan at the time, and I had no access to it at the time. But it's just nice to kind of see what was going on in the Japanese mod scene in the 1990s. So, but it's a nice label to collect. As you can see, I found them all. I mean, I think the only one that was kind of going to be expensive was the Latin Swingers, and that record popped up, and I was able to get it for like $10. But it was like on Discogs for like $70, and I was getting to the point where it's like, you know what, I might have to pay for it, but patience paid off on that one, and I got it for like 1,000 yen. So the 3 comps, they do pop up. I just haven't got them yet. Yeah, it's a fairly easy, I would think, an easy label to collect. If you could have access to Yahoo Auctions Japan and Discogs and everything, you can probably find these records not a problem. I really wish they should talked more about who was in these bands. I think that's a big problem for me. It just sucks that I just don't know who any of these guys are, and just to be able to locate them on Facebook and say, hey, I loved your band. It's a good band. So all these bands, just if you see the video, just, hey, great, you guys are really good. This was a really good label. You guys had a good thing going at that time. Now, my final thing I'd like to say is that this record right here is probably my favorite of the bunch. If you do DJ mod and psych and garage rock, punk, you can toss this record in and you'll get people dancing. It's a fantastic record. It's so good. I'm really glad I got it. I'm really glad I found it, and I'm glad it kind of taught me about these the label in general. Yeah, it's cool. So Surface Records, check it out. Try to find them. And if you're, like I said, if you collect mods, ska, reggae, and you're interested in what was going on in Japan in the 90s, Surface Records kind of is a nice little touch of the sound that was going on at the time and what people were doing. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope you learned something new about kind of this obscure label from Japan in the 90s. Thank you.